so it's kind of drifting real easy on you. We can control some of that. It's also gonna be for sitting.
Okay.
It'll be for going downstairs. All these things will be affected by the what we're gonna put in there right now, you know, and how we do it. So right now, if you walk, you should already feel a difference in the way the knee functions.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be a little tighter than it was.
Yeah, when it was giving away before.
Yep, so it's gonna be a little tighter than it was, and you don't have to work quite as hard.
Yeah, it doesn't slam backwards. Locked in place like that before.
How about up top, a little better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better. I mean, it's gonna, still work in progress, but it's better than it was. I could walk without hurting everything.
And we can still work on that, but, you know. So the way this works, the more pressure you put against the knee, the more it's gonna push back. I don't know, it's like a Kimcom machine for like a better reference. What it means is that, so if you go down a decline and you just go down the decline, it's gonna keep that knee from bending as much as you need it to. Does that make sense? It's gonna kind of fight the knee from going, the computer's gonna do this, the microprocessor's gonna do it, so you don't have to think about it. So that's the benefit of the microprocessor aspect. Like you're playing golf and you're going off of a green, you can walk foot over foot down that slope, and if you trust it and just go with it, it's gonna let you go foot over foot at a sustained pace, whatever that pace you set.
Okay.
It's not gonna, you're not gonna be running down and have to, you know, catch yourself from falling like earlier. It'll actually push against you.
Okay.
So, what I want you to do right now that you see the difference, I want you to just sit. Now, the key here, Jared, is don't sit like you've been doing
Okay.
with all the weight on your right leg.
Okay.
Because what I'm trying to do is establish how you want to sit. So this is replacing your left leg, it's also replacing your left knee. It will slow you down on the left side now.
Okay.
So you don't have to bear everything on the right side, okay? So sit like you normally would. You can use the rails, that's fine, but go at a speed that would be comfortable for you to sit. And you can do it, you know, multiple times. If the knee's too stiff, I can loosen it. Yeah, you just have to kind of trust it and just sit.
Yourself to be further away.
And it may not be enough, tell me. I mean, that's,
I don't know. I've forgotten how I sit, so.
yeah, and that's okay, you've been doing this, and this is something we can change anytime, so.
It's not bad, I just have to figure out where my feet go.
Well, and see, being on crutches, you end up doing, you know, the bipod thing. You got, or tripod rather, you got two crutches, and you end up putting your foot in the middle. And now we wanna get that foot kind of moving back out to the normal position where it used to be. I love crutches and people around how they're active and they're doing great. However, that's part of the gait habit that happens is that foot slides over to the middle for balance. So what we're trying to do is make you, you know, bilingual here again, where you don't have to rely on that right leg and beat it up all the time.
Seems like you could go a little slower.
Okay? So let's tap it up a couple of notches. All right, try that, see how that feels.
I still think a little slower.
Okay?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Feels all right?
Yeah.
Okay? And you're still in the green. I mean, you know, we just bumped it up off of the medium that they recommended for you, so it's absolutely perfect. We'll stay there. Now, that will also affect you on stairs, okay? We get you in therapy and you start going downstairs, it'll help you progress down the stairs. We'll probably work on that some too.
Okay.
I hope they have a good idea of how to do this, you know, over repeat. Your foot has to land on the stair at a certain place and, you know, for the knee to function correctly.
Okay.
But there's guys that have two of these that walk downstairs foot over foot. So if they can do it, but they're, you know, you have to learn where to put your foot. I mean, more to it than just I'm gonna walk down the stairs today.
Okay.
But the goal for us eventually is you can do that without any worries. I mean, that's what this knee was designed for, was you to be able to watch the head of you and not be staring at your feet to, you know, go down the stair, you know, or playing golf, or the bowling thing, you know, that's gonna be one of these things where you're gonna kind of figure out how to do it for yourself. Your dad was telling me about your walker thing, you know, I'm going, that's great. I mean, you know, hey, you overcome and adapt, and you're still getting asked to be on bowling teams. I mean, you know, on one leg, so phenomenal. Now what you'll do is figure out how to use this to even make that better. And it will, because it fights against itself, meaning, I'll show you in a second what I mean. There comes some trust factor with it. I mean, you have to, if you don't give it 100%, it's not gonna give you back 100%. So I'll explain that a little bit more, but with the bowling, if you really go into it and push on that knee, it's gonna slow you down. So you may get somewhat of a normal, you know, bowling game back. I mean, you know, it's gonna be learned. I mean, you know, all this is, yes, sir.
The app that he can put on the phone, or I guess, will they give him a lot of what you're doing, or
No.
maybe?
Yeah, I'll set the basic, you know, the specific settings. The app is a My Mode app, and what it does is there's 5 modes that we can memorize in the knee, okay? So one of them, for example, that I usually recommend to everybody is free swing, okay? When you get into that app, now you have to remember you're in it, because that needs free swing. There's nothing. But if you wanted to get on a bicycle and pedal with your right leg, but you know, be able to balance and have your left leg on a pedal too, you could. It would just be free swing. Some people will change when they get in a car, and then they don't have to worry about. Right now, that knee is going to have, you know, resistance. And so I mentioned this a little bit to you about getting in a car. You're going to have to get the knee bent to get in your car. Yours will be a little different because, well, if we get the rotator on you, there's a lot of different, you know, ways we can do it. But you can also do, I mean, they've got cross-country skiing, they've got extended standing. So if I have somebody, or let's say you're a Star Wars fan, and they're coming out with a new one, and you're gonna stand in line for 3 days waiting for tickets.
Yeah.
I'm not, but you know, okay, so you change into extended standing, the knee's locked, standing.
Okay.
You can just put your weight on it and sit there all day. I mean, it'd be like being on a stool.
Okay.
So these are the My Modes. And what he can do, you know, Mr. Young is get on his phone and go he can change those 5 My Modes. So if he needs to go downhill skiing, he can change into downhill skiing. If he wants to be in extended standing, you know, with the click of his phone, he can be in extended standing. It'll also count your step counts. You can pull up how much battery power you've got left, things like that.
Cool,
You know,
cool.
But this part, now this is what I do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you don't want to be too much. You could easily put this in free swing by changing these numbers, and next thing you know, you just fell down the flight of stairs. So, you know, there has to be, now, you know, if you put it in free swing, you gotta be really careful. I have people that used to change it with the key fob and then would forget that they did it and they got out of their car. And now they put weight on it and, sack of potatoes, you're on the ground. I mean, there's not gonna be any resistance in it. So you do have to remember where you have it. So this may change. We can change it at any time, and it's easy to do, as you can see. The higher the setting goes on sitting and stairs and things like that, and right now I think it's good to be a little more safe, conservative, have a little more resistance. As you get good at this and you're starting to bowl and do these things, you may want to back it off a little bit.
Okay.
You know, because it will also make it a little stiffer when you're trying to get your car. Okay, we've got more flexion resistance, so you're trying to get in and you're waiting on it to bend. You know, so some people grab your thigh and they kind of manually pull it down. Those are problems that you can't run into, okay? But just coming out of the gate, I think it's, personally, I like to have it a little more conservative, just so there's no mishaps to begin with. And then as you get better and better at it, we can pull it down if you need to, okay? Swing phase, so just want you to get up and kind of do your thing. This is just the walking and getting some parameters on, letting the foot get in front of you. What it's gonna do is analyze how fast you're going. And it's, well, it'll get better. And it'll allow more hydraulics or less hydraulics by opening and closing valves, so that it gets out faster, Now right now, you're bending a little bit, that'll get better. You have to discharge about 80%, 75% of your body weight across the ball of the foot to signal the need of bend. So your step lengths, you wanna be good. You also wanna keep your weight on that side. So you bend it that time, but see how you're kind of dragging your foot through? Part of it's because we've got more flexion resistance. The other part is that you're used to being on your right leg, so you're tending to stay on your right leg. So when you follow through and take your step, remember not to switch your weight. And this is part of therapy and just getting used to it. You're not gonna be the best at this just coming out of the gate. You have to remember that you wanna keep your weight shift evenly through the whole gait cycle. The knee doesn't want you to fall, so if you don't keep your weight on it, it's gonna stay straight so you don't fall. So that's part of the reason it's not coming out from under you. So you're bending it a little bit when you're getting there.
Yeah.
So what you wanna do is make sure you're taking what we call a heel to toe gait, which means you wanna step all the way across the foot till you get your heel even with the toe. There you go. Now you wanna do the same thing on this side. There you go. And what that's gonna do is when you start leaving your weight on it, it'll start bending and then reflexing back.
What does the blue light indicate?
That it's on,
Oh.
and that Wi-Fi is functioning.
Okay.
While I'm in it, it's actively on Wi-Fi so that I can connect. When I get out of it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's on. If Jared wants to do his My Apps, for example, he's got to make sure that the Wi-Fi is on at the time.
That is too cool.
So yeah, you want to take giant steps. You just want to take even steps, and then the weight shift is the thing. Right now, how you doing up top in the socket?
The top's fine, it's fine. So it's just more tender than I guess I would have thought on those spots, but I said it's fine.
So there, if you're watching in the mirror, you're predominantly on your right side. What you got to think about is if you drop a plumb bob from your nose, it's going to be in the middle of your feet. Okay, so that weight shift, and what they're going to do with therapy, they're not going to do all this walking first, which you probably disappointed. They're going to go, and go back and forth, and they want you to start getting on top of the prosthesis. Especially being on a walker and crutches, what you've learned to do, once again, is you've borne all your weight on your right side, and then your foot has been migrated into the middle. So right now, you're still going, okay, this whole thing's new, I don't trust this thing, I'm not all sure about throwing my weight over there while I'm walking across it. It's normal, it's just gonna take a little time. Your step lengths look great, we just need to get where you're bending the leg, you wanna flex the knee, that's what it's there for, we don't want you sliding through, we want you to step across it, have the knee bend, and then the foot come back out in front of you. So I'm gonna actually drop your swing flexion angle a little bit. Don't worry about it, I didn't change anything dramatic.
You need to see the bottom half.
I don't know, I'm trying to
You're doing fine.
feel like I'm doing it, but.
You're doing fine. Hey, you're walking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody said it was gonna be pretty the first day. It's a learned. Now, how does the height feel after I adjusted it? I raised it a little bit.
I think it's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, it feels like I'm dropping slightly.
Now, if it's
Maybe
too
not.
low, what's happening is then, if you can't keep your weight on the ball of the foot when you're walking across it, the bend, sometimes that's a height thing. I think in your case, we're close. I think some of it's just you've been on crutches forever and you're wanting to maintain that right side, which is completely normal. I mean, this is, it happens with every above the knee, even ones that have been in a wheelchair. They still trust that God-given leg, the feedback's there, they know they're on their foot, they're comfortable with it. Then you put in walking on crutches or a walker, and we know you have shifted everything.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing that, and you've been doing it for a while now. So this is one of those gait habits that we don't like. I like that you've been on crutches and using them. I don't like the foot migrates over and it kind of takes over because it's sometimes hard to, now you've got to relearn that. So can't get frustrated, just keep doing your thing. Keep your step lengths even and try to keep your weight shift and walk across the leg. You're doing a good job. I mean, you really are. Step lengths are great. Most people have a hard time, they take a giant step with the prosthesis and then they take a very small, sound side step because they don't trust the prosthesis. So you've got a lot of that already established. You're doing great as far as your step lengths go. You just pick up really quick.
Oh, do
Well, you should ride that ball of the foot across, and actually it should be going into flexion now, and then the knee should be bending, and so, there you go. Then you want to pick up.
That's a little better.
Yeah, well, that's the purpose. So we want you to flex the knee and bend it. That's what the knee's doing, hoping to do for you.
That was different.
But it's learning. I mean, you're figuring out how to walk again with a knee that's not yours. There you go. Now, you gotta still pick your hip up, you gotta make sure you're swinging through, but that was great. You told the knee to bend and it bent. So when you slide through, you see how it kind of immediately wants to get back straight? Because it's a trip response. What it thinks, okay, if you're out in the woods and you catch a root or a vine, it's not sure what's happening, so it's gonna try to keep you from falling. So it has to be signaled, like I said, you get 70% of your body weight across the ball of that foot, or the knee is not sure what you're asking it to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So whatever you did a minute ago, I mean, it just flexed fantastic. That's kind of what do you want to keep your weight over there? There you go. That's it. So some of that locking that I told you to do every time, don't do that so much now. I know I'm messing with your head. You didn't have any flexion resistance in there earlier. That's why I was saying don't let the knee drift, you control it. Now you've got some built in, so you don't need to do quite as much of that. Don't pull so hard. Be more of a regular walk. You don't have to be quite so labored. I think now I got you thinking you've got to, keep it almost stiff. There you go. So the knee's gonna get out in front of it, but you don't wanna ride it down either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So part of that's weight shift and part of it could be a little bit short, these are the things we gotta figure out. You gotta also remember, you had pelvic drop on that side, and so you're used to it being shorter, and now I've jacked you up, so what may feel really tall today, it may not be quite, where we want it. But it may take a couple of days on it for us to figure that out, Were you guys ever get therapy set up?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Okay, perfect.
Knowing him, you won't need it by then.
Yeah, I imagine he's gonna be knowing him some long time on it. The key is, not to yeah, this is that aggressive mentality. It's gonna take a little time, you know. Motivated, yes, aggressive, no. Because aggressiveness, when it doesn't happen for you when you want it, then it turns into a bad thing. So there's nothing negative about what you're doing. You're walking.
Yeah.
You look great, man. You're walking. I mean, this is what you've been telling me you wanted to do, walk, you know. Now we just have to get it refined, okay? And it's gonna take a little practice. You're really doing a good job. So it's that bend, but then don't sit on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's tough.
It is. Keep your weight on it, but don't ride it. This is something that it just takes practice. It just takes practice. I got guys that are not nearly as capable as you that have been on these things for 3 years. Problem is they don't walk in it right, and you know, it turns out to be they could have just used a different knee. But you're getting it. Every lap looks a little better. You're actually bending the knee now. We just need to get you off that toe.
Yep, see, when I try to stay off my toe, then I just pick it straight up.
So what happens is you lose that hip height on that side. You know, we always walk with a little bit of hip height. We don't really pay attention to it. But every time I lift, I'm actually raising on that side. When you're on crutches and what have you, and you don't have a side, you know, the left side, there's no reason to height that hip. Plus, it's actually dropped 3 to 5 degrees. So now you have to get used to walking across it, but when you get here, you still have to raise the hip. Okay, and bend right here when you're coming through. It's a little bit of a timing thing, but you're doing great. I mean, you're walking, it looks great. You know, like I said, it's more at this point of just refining it. That's what therapy's for, and practice, and the more you walk, the better it gets. You have to remember too, Jared, there's not an amount that it has to flex. You know, you don't have to bend it 90 degrees to take a step. Matter of fact, I prevent some of that because we don't want the timing to be off because the heel's way back here.
Okay.
So, as long as you're flexing and getting across it, that's what we're looking for. So don't think you've got to bend it at 90 degrees to be taking a good step.
All right.
You're walking, man. It looks great.
Sometimes it swings out for it quick.
Well, and that's just the little bit of toe drag. Which right now, I can help you with that, but in order to do that, I've got to dorsiflex the foot. And what that does, then it's gonna make it harder to put the body weight on the ball of the foot. So I'd rather, you know, let's keep practicing and moving ahead. Even if it doesn't look great right now, get some practice this way, and then we can fine tune a little bit. I think just your first day, you're not gonna get past the habit of being on your right side. You're still gonna predominantly try to, you know, have your weight mostly on that right side.
I can feel it.
It's absolutely normal, yeah, it's absolutely normal.
Want me to run out and get your bowling ball?
All right.
Yeah, look at you, yeah,
Oh, he'll have it.
yeah.
I said the first part is getting the mechanics down. It's just like bowling. This has technique to it, and you gotta get the technique down. You know, I don't play golf. I stink, and by the 8th hole, I've lost 30 balls, so I go with my friends.
Yeah.
Now, if I hit it right, I can drive 300 yards.
Yeah.
But that's the key. It's the technique part. I can clobber the ball. It's just if I can, you know, I've got to have my thumb wrapped over correctly, and not let my face open up, blah, blah, blah. You know, otherwise I slice it and it's on the other fairway.
Yeah.
So it's all technique. But then I see this little 120-pound guy coming behind me, you know, and he hits it 325 yards, and I'm going, really?
Yeah.
You know, I'm big and strong and I can't hit the ball straight, you know, this little tiny guy comes in and wallops it and one. That's what I learned a long time ago, is technique.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, you're fatiguing. So this is, you know, you gotta remember, excuse me, those left hip flexors, quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, none of this has been working for how long?
3 months now.
Yeah, at least. And so now you've been walking at it for, you've what, done 30 laps, maybe 40? So some of what you start seeing setting in is, you know, fatigue. You're getting tired. Now, I know you won't admit that, but that's what's happening.
And unfortunately, I can feel it.
Yeah, even talking about your right hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you're shifting your hip, or you got used to walking one way, and now you're shifting your hip, trying to shift your weight, and it's changing all the way those muscles have been working.
And when I do, and this, like you said, this leg tries to stay in the middle, and
That's all right.
I walk that way.
That's all right. It's a habit that you have to relearn, so it won't happen in a day. But what I can tell you is that I'm looking at your height, I'm looking at your technique, you're doing great. It's just gonna take a little practice.
Right.
Even the fine tuning of the programming. Today, we're gonna set some parameters and get you walking that are at a median place, and then we're gonna send you to therapy and then you start walking. And then we'll get you back in and we'll tweak some things and, you know, even your alignment and everything. I mean, there's only so much we can get you to today. It's not gonna be walkout, 98%.
Yeah.
Because you're just not at that place. It's not anything personal. Like you're doing as good as anybody ever has. It's just the little, getting the toe off the floor. I don't wanna keep changing too much with the alignment, because then I keep changing what you're trying to do, and it makes it different. Rather get this down, and then if it's not all you, your weight shift is in there and all, we're still dragging the toe a little bit, okay, so we'll change the toe. Because really what you're doing, it looks really good. I mean, some of it, like I say, you're getting tired. So the key to that, is,
Stop.
there we go. I don't want to pay you to, but that's part of that, aggressive versus motivated. I know you're just excited to be walking. You're doing great. I mean, really are. Looks really good.
It's a heavy ass chair.
Jared is so good at analyzing what's going on with himself and everybody else. All the bowlers are gathering around to find out what Jared says about their how they throw.
Right.
So yeah, he's so good at it.
He's the technical analyst.
Yes, he's improved my game this summer.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "You're the king." That's what he told me.
Well, he can tell me what to do and I can follow it. So, as long as he's there to tell me exactly what I need to be doing, it's okay. It works out really good.
Well, I'll puff you up a little bit because he enjoys bowling with you. And, that's a great thing for, dad and son. My dad's not around anymore. The fact that you guys are able to do that, and it means a lot.
And then he brings his son, so then there's three of us. So this is
Yep.
just awesome.
That's fantastic. I mean,
It's awesome.
All right, so what I did was I just kept the settings where we were.
Okay.
I think they're working fine. Are they perfectly optimal? Probably not at this point. But the sitting feels good to you now. Like I said, I like it to be a little bit stiff in the beginning. I want you to worry about getting the knee bent and getting the toe swung through without having to worry about falling.
Okay.
And the knee coming out from under you because we don't have enough flexion resistance, if that makes sense. Like earlier, there was nothing, and I want you to be confident, be able to walk straight, not looking at your feet, doing like you were doing. definitely there's, you know, gonna be without a doubt, the little stuff. Some of it is, you know, on your end, some of it's on this end, you know. We'll get them meshed a little bit closer. This is never, as much as I would love to say, you come in and you walk out and it's great, especially when you're replacing knees. It's just more of a different ballgame. You know, the more God-given joints that you lose, the harder it becomes, you know. Thank God you have your hip.
Yeah.
I got a 72-year-old vet that I just put a hip dysartic socket on. So he's got this knee, well, he's got a C4, but, and he has a hydraulic hip that's also from the same company.
Wow.
He has to do hip, knee,
Wow.
foot balance, and then energy expenditure is through the
Yeah.
ceiling. You know, you're at 62%, you know, he's at 85, 90, 110.
Yeah.
And how old is he?
I think he's 72, he might be 75.
Wow.
You know, he's doing it, you know. Now, has he been to a lot of therapy? And absolutely. I mean, you know, and I'm not suggesting you're gonna be there forever. You won't. You're already a lot ahead of, you know, people that started in the same thing, whether it be a sea leg, doesn't matter. You're in the same version, basically. The programming is real similar. This one has more bells and whistles, which is good, the waterproof and all that. But they all function very similarly. You're ahead of the game. So don't, you know, I hope this is still a hugely great day and you're
Oh, yeah.
smiling and,
I'm still
you know.
gonna go walk with it.
You're walking,